knew that would come at them. Previous experience told them Mediscare would come at them. Criticisms too about the use of the polling company Freshwater and their lack of nous. I had lines that the pollsters were briefing out regurgitated back to me recently by someone who appears on this network. I said they were completely fanciful, the Freshwater lines. They didn't make numerical sense if you know how to read polling. Well, that's been proven right. Now, fortunately, you can replace a pollster, but only after the damage has been done. Another area of real damage was policy, or the lack of it. Now, this was a Liberal Party campaign full of the sugar hit of announcements, but without the substantive policies that underpin them. I mean, where were the documents? Where were the proper costings? Where were things properly socialised months and months earlier so that people had a chance to digest them, understand them, know how the policies would help them? And sure, the campaign team, the staff, as I mentioned before, well, they wear blame here, sure, but ultimately, policy comes down to the work of the Shadow Ministry. And if they don't do the work, if the MPs don't do the work, then you end up with the result we got on Saturday night. Getting policy out early and having it founded on your party's values, deeply written in your DNA, well, that is critical to winning voters over, because you then build on your core equities with voters. For the coalition, obviously, that's economic management, it's national security. It's also how you deny your opponents the ability to turn your policy announcements into a scare campaign. Because believe me, if you announce things late and half-baked and on the run, that scare campaign, it almost writes itself. Especially when Labor's got a team of media mates and a whole new industry of these online influencers to push out that scare campaign. Which then brings me to communications, or lack of them in this case, lack of communication skill. The coalition failed here too. Yes, Labor told lies. Yes, the PM flashed his Medicare card every day to sell that lie. But the Liberals did very little to counteract them. When they tried, it was too late. Because the coalition matched almost all of Labor's spending, it was impossible for Labor to say that the Libs would, as an example, cut health directly. So instead, Labor built a straw man to do that, and they used Dutton's nuclear power plant. The cost of his nuclear power plant, they said, was $600 billion. It was never $600 billion. That was completely made up. It came from a Labor-linked lobby group with connections to Simon Holmes à Court, but that didn't matter. Labor used the $600 billion figure to make a connection in voters' minds that if Dutton's nuclear plant cost that much, then the money had to come from somewhere. Hence that deadly line, he cuts, you pay. And yet until I raised that figure here about 3 and a bit weeks ago and wrote about it in The Australian, this whole $600 billion lie was never challenged by the Liberals. Now that's just one example, but there are many. It's not unlike my fight over the secret agenda of the Uluru Statement that was The Voice. I mean, it was a hardcore 26-page document of demands. It wasn't a small one-page invitation that the PM tried to claim. Now that too was nowhere until I exposed it, you ran with it, you voted against it, and we turned the Voice campaign around. In the end, it comes down to this, and you've heard me say it time and time again. You will lose 100% of the fights you are not in. You will lose 100% of the fights you are not in. This is exactly what happened on Saturday night. The Liberals were not in the fight in any sense. Not in the policy work, not in the negative campaigning, the rapid rebuttal of Labor lies, not in the picture value day to day, not in message simplicity, not in the way they put their key players like Jacinta Price and Andrew Hastie in the freezer. Now why? We'll never know. To beat a first-term government, you have to go hard, you have to go early, and you must keep the contest simple. When Abbott almost toppled Gillard in 2010 after just 8 months in the job, he didn't have 3 years that the coalition had. He did it by creating a contest with Labor. He did not let Labor frame the contest, he framed it. And as he fought every day, he fought as if his political life depended on it because he knew it did. He knew that if he didn't take Labor down, Turnbull was ready to come back at him. And even when Abbott eventually won government in a landslide, Turnbull undermined him anyway. And that's something that dozens of people have said to me over the weekend. That the start of the Liberal Party slide into trouble started when we junked what we stood for and broke the hearts of so many of our base, moving from Abbott to Turnbull. So where to now? The Liberals must have a review, and it must do more than gather dust on the shelf like the last one. They must regroup and start doing the work from day one, not think that Labor will merely ebb its way out of office. They must work out who they are, what they stand for, and who they represent. Now, the case in point here is the National Party. They have weathered almost all of the hits in recent years where the Liberals have not. Voters know and understand what the National Party stands for. Yes, their demographics have stayed more stable than the Libs, but when you buy their box off the shelf, you take it home and you open it, you get what you bought. Not so the Liberals, who've been all over the shop since the carpetbagger Turnbull upended the party, broke the heart of the base, and then was punted for his failures. To my mind, the best summation of what Liberal Party stands for is still that of Menzies and his plea that the Liberal Party must represent the forgotten middle class of Australia, not those at the boardrooms, not those with plenty of money in their pockets, but those in the everyday suburbs, running a small business or working hard to raise their families, that want government to be big enough to do all the things they can't do for themselves, but as small as possible. That believe in the individual over the state, that want to be able to keep as much as they can of what they earn, and are distrustful of government trying to tell them how to live their lives or curtail their freedom. Now, the job of an opposition is not to be a weak echo of a bad government, as Tony Abbott used to say. It's to be strong and decisive and a clear alternative.